Back bow, uncle baggity birdie birdie. Back bow, baggity dow, your doggy. Whap bow and a whappity bow. I got the bang in my now. Like it don't have my now. I got a bow, 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 bow. I got a bow, 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 bow. Look at all that frost. Hey, everybody. Hang on a moment while I handle my beverage situation. Hope y'all can hear me. I got a flap bow and the flingity bow. I got the chick bow and the dingy dow. I got a hunky mow on the chickity pow. She got fangs in me, baby, like I don't even now. I got a boom, dandle, dandle, doodle, 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 doodle. That's a Slow-Mo Sapiens Nirvana mashup. I just went for it. They kind of have the same tempo. Oh, look at that. I gotta flip down on the monkey clown. I'm gonna chip gow on the crippity gow. I gotta skip now on the giggity bow. She got the fangs in the Okie dokie, lemon chokey and fickin' folky. What are those folky doing over there? I think they're ficking. They're definitely ficking. One of them has a ficking stick. Don't take away my ficking stick. Dungeon Master's log, entry 473473334.7. The players seem to be exhibiting strange behaviors. They're choosing their own destiny and interacting with fruit vendors. They're carrying too much treasure around, and the rust monsters can smell them from a mile away. Greetings, programs. Your old buddy Ingrid Bernal here. Hankrin Fernail coming at you right here on Rune here, where this is Drunkens and Dragons. Hey, looky there, it's golden. The masterworks of Japan. One of them being this little gem right here. So delicious on a hot day. And believe me, it's hot. You got the fangs in my man like you don't even. I always pour my beers like this right in front of my face. I gotta drink Sapporo in the afternoon. I gotta ask the DM gods for a boon. I gotta drink some lagers and hang on the net because I'm going to talk about my OSC session 12. That doesn't rhyme. Crap. Hey, everybody. It's me. Welcome back. It's Friday night. And wow. It's 7 o'clock on Friday. No, 6:30 on Friday. Hi, everybody. We are back once again here in the laboratoire to talk about D&D. So I hope y'all can hear me loud and clear. Here's to you. Have a sip if you got them. The beer of the elves. It's bland and annoying tasting. Later, Andrew. Okay, you know what we guys do. What we guys? You guys know what we do on Friday night. We kick it. We talk about D&D. I usually talk about like what's going on in my Gizame, which this last Monday was session 12. Session 12 for those who parle français in the maison. Session 12. These guys have made their way to session 12. We were going to have a few more guest players than we expected, so we've now been three-manning for a while, and our fourth guy is off on a carpentry job in the swampy wasteland of North Carolina, I think, or it could be the tangled, haunted mountains of Virginia. I'm not sure. But either way, he's been kept there. He's overdue. He's trapped. Trapped, I say. And so has not returned to the game. So we've been 3-manning, but he's coming back this week for session 13, so they'll be back to full strength. But in the meantime, he had to go on this job for over a month. So much history and experience has been built with the 3-man version of the crew. So it's going to be wild for the 4th man to return. It's going to be like Chemistry 2000. I'm sorry about all the nonsense sounds. I got a lot of nonsense sounds in me tonight. I don't know why. Perhaps because delicious food gives you delicious and wonderful energy. I don't know what Huff 2000 means, but thank you, Kuchigari. Thank you for the Huff 2000. Huff 2000 sounds like, I don't know, like a bargain basement vaping pen. Hey man, is that the Huff 2000? Yeah, I've got Blueberry Blast in here, bruh. Check out these hoops. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yes, it's been a great evening. That wraps up the show for tonight. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I got up. Okay, $6.75 in the bank. Thank you, Kuchigari, for the tip. That will buy me one of these fine, fine Japanese lagers. Japanese lager. And you know, one good thing about having a clear mug of this scale is all the goldenness. Hey, look, I'm in here. Hello? I'm inside of it. It's an optical illusion. No need to fear. I'm not actually trapped inside of it. Okay. Enough nonsense. Well, it was about just the right amount of nonsense. I do approximately 5 minutes of nonsense every week as I both wonder and hope if anyone will be tuning in for reasons I have yet to fully comprehend this week here on Runehammer. So it is a brand new month. Somehow it's freaking July. What the what? It's July? That's crazy, man. I must be getting old though, because old people talk about like the weather and the fact that it's the inevitable month, like it's surprising. Boy, this weather's crazy. And can you believe it's July already? You know, it's like grocery store talk. Okay, so session 12, let's break this stuff down. Got to like build up my energy. That's part of the nonsense sort of routine. Is like the nonsense at the beginning of the stream gets my blood pumping, gets my vocal cords like ready, because you guys know how these game recaps go. I get a little bit excited. Um, so for those of you who've been following along with this sort of insane, I wouldn't call it a storyline because it's a D&D campaign. There's totally different things. A storyline is such a focused narrative to evoke certain feelings, experiences, and messages, whereas a D&D campaign is a loosely associated set of choices which are adapted into a saga resembling a story sometimes. So for those of you who've been following, my group has just finished this huge sort of section of the game, which was what we call Jackport Valley, or the City of the Dead, Jackport, which is a whole sort of valley or area in Blackmore, which has been obscured by this magical fog, which was created by human sacrifice and by ancient betrayal, all to contain an arch vampire. We're talking a vampire like the level of Dracula Untold, like that level, like you're forming a giant fist out of bats kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? You're like shape shifting on the fly. You know, you can change your outfit. That's how powerful Dracula, this vampire is. So this fog was built as a sort of a prison for this vampire, should he ever awaken, which he had not until recently. Then to escape this valley, my players, faced with a kind of a bit of a weird dilemma here, had to end this fog, or they were just going to live out their days in this freaking valley. And they're way too cool for that. They have dreams and ambitions. So they pretty much know that they're going to release Admiral Akarov, this arch vampire, if they dissipate this fog, if they end the curse of the fog to escape. But that's how it goes sometimes. You're not just going to rot here forever. The one other option they considered was to find a way to actually dig under or go through the Underdark so far that they would go under the fog. But after a brief interlude in the Underdark, they decided against that strategy. My Underdark is terrifying because you can do big descents sometimes that could be impossible to climb out of and then find a dead end because I don't map my Underdark. I let the dice do the mapping, and it's very freaking scary, which is, I think, how tunnels and stuff should feel. So they just finished this huge portion of gameplay in this valley. What is going on in the... All right, I'm just trying to not get there yet. So they resolved all that with the escape of this arch vampire. And please try to a little bit control your non sequiturs in the comments. They do go into my brain and drill a hole in my brain and completely break my train of thought. So just for the sake of courtesy, what's up, Ben? How you doing, man? Please try to control the epic non sequiturs in the comments. I know it kind of feels like a safe spam space, but I like my monkey brain is reading those comments as I'm going, so they can really, as you've seen in recent streams, they can absolutely break my concentration. So I don't know if that's a thing we care about, but for me, it makes things difficult. So they conclude this whole thing. They release this arch vampire in the world. Two of them are coming out of this whole thing with bad case of werewolfism. They have lycanthropy. They will turn in 2 weeks' time. We rolled for the phase of the moon. In 2 weeks, the foon will be mole, right? It'll be a mole foon, full moon, and they will turn. So that's a concern right now. But also, they're just trying to get to Blackmoor or the nearest large capable city, as adventurers often are, and then eventually to the island of Coot, which is up north of Blackmoor across this sort of frozen channel. So they have two routes to get there. One to the city of Maus, which is due north. And so we talk about this at the end of session 11 and over text throughout the week before session 12. We talk about this, about, that route, which is the due north route. And then we talk about the alternative, which is a westerly route, which goes through the Redwood, which is a comically named forest of redwoods, but namely the oldest, biggest forest in Blackmoor, which contains Ringlow Hall, which is the sort of the seat of the high elves in Blackmoor. This is right in the center of the forest. It's along the road. They're probably going to encounter this stuff if they go that direction. And these are the choices they're faced with. And so the first thing they consider is like, well, if we go up to like this sort of frozen kind of Viking mariner town at the very northern tip of things, then we're probably looking at a siege voyage. And if, like, knowing our group, we're going to fall off the boat. And this is not me talking. This is all them inventing what may or may not be dangerous. So they're like, oh yeah, man, none of us are good swimmers. We're going to need a scroll of water breathing or something. We're going to fall off the boat. And like, this is crazy. And, this town sounds horrible. Bunch of frozen xenophobic Vikings up there. That's terrible. Let's go west. So we pretty much decide before session 12 that they're going to head west. So we gather Monday night for session 12, and they head west out of the City of the Dead or Jackport Valley. So finally, we're going to switch from this misty, foggy cemetery kind of werewolfy valley kind of feel, Barovia kind of ripoff kind of feel. And we're finally going to head west into forest, into old growth forest, which is fantastic. Almost something like Davokar out of Symbaroum. It's such a nice change of environment. This is very refreshing, probably for everyone involved. And so as they're heading toward the woods, what do they see to begin our session? Yo, I'm hankering for a nail. They have to see the same thing you always see when you go out on the road: a fruit vendor. There's an old man. He's pulling a cart, and he's got apples and pears and a couple odds and ends in the cart, like some cherries. He's got a couple, like, ginger roots, but mainly he's got, a bevy of apples and pears. He's doing his normal road trade route. He offers to sell some apples to the characters. They happily take him up on this. They kind of talk with him a little bit. I think they're kind of refreshed to talk to a person that was not either going to imprison, torture, sacrifice, eat, tear apart, or desanguinate them. So there's kind of a pleasant exchange here. And I think maybe my players are starting to realize that there's always a fruit vendor in not hostile territory. And Guy, this is hilarious that you ask, because this is their first question after they finish buying apples. Do you have any wolfsbane? Again, if I don't have a direct, like, written down answer for anything that comes up in the session, we let a dice decide, and it's usually like a coin flip style. But if any of you have read my OSC Hacked doc, which you can grab on my last video's description, um, it's a sort of a weighted dice, or a weighted coin flip is the way to think of it. So you roll a d6. It's really just saying yes or no, but 1 is a really hard no and 6 is a really hard yes, and that's kind of how we do it. And so, do you have any wolfsbane? And we roll. No, he doesn't. Oh, that's a rare herb. Nobody has that anymore. And they ask him, like, have you heard, there are like werewolves out here in this valley, and like, is there a cure for this werewolf stuff? Because these werewolves are a real pain in the butt. And he says, no, I pick fruit and like walk a cart around. I don't know anything about that. It's mostly superstition anyway. Like, there hasn't been a werewolf around for a long time. People just see these big wolves and get scared, so on and so forth. They're like, hey man, you're all right. They never ask him his name. He kind of just cruises on. They don't really pick his brain. And I don't have a ton of notes on who this guy is, but if a scene starts developing, I'll go with it. I will reward players who want to pick. I love my old man fruit vendors. Like, that's me. That's like myself in the game world. I am an old man fruit vendor. So if I get talked to a lot, I'm excited to have the spotlight even near me, to be talking to heroes. It's exciting. But they kind of don't engage him, and they don't, like, give him a bunch of hassle. They kind of let him go on his way, and into the redwood they go. And so the first beat that I did with them was I made sure that all our minds were in this place together, because we've been in a different setting for a while. So when we're coming into this woods, I took like probably almost half an hour to describe what a redwood forest is really like. And because of where I've been living for the last almost 20 years, um, I am intimately familiar with the details of a forest exactly like this. And so I want to bring them in there. I want to get their imagination off to a running start, so that with each subsequent scene that we do, I'm not describing the details again and again. They are conjuring up the details completely on their own. That's what I want to happen. So I'm talking about giant deadfall. I'm talking about damp bark. I'm talking about huge trunks where there's no foliage until way up high. I'm talking about a lack of undergrowth generally, except soft stuff like ferns. I'm talking about a squishy ground that occasionally has large hollows in it because the roots go 10 feet down and it's not really soil. I'm talking about moss beds, mushrooms, all this kind of stuff, and really bringing them in there. Yes, Dan, that is what I'm doing. So this long and this whole time making like a ton of eye contact with my players, right? We're not playing from a notebook or looking at our character sheets right now. We're like looking right at each other, and what I'm looking for is comprehension, and also just seeing those imaginations going into this environment. Hearing the occasional absence of birds, hearing almost the total absence of insects, because redwood forests do not have many insects at all. It's very strange. They have some creepy crawlies, but not a lot of like cicadas and buzzies going around. It just isn't like that. And so this is what I did, is like get them there. And when I'm feeling it and the vibe is there, we've already had like a couple of beers, and we also had to catch up. Because remember, I've told you guys, we do really long recaps at the beginning of each session. And honestly, the recaps begin before even like the last player has arrived. Like, the last player is maybe picking up beer for the group or grabbing a pizza for us. And before they're even there, we're sitting at the table getting the dice out and talking about all the different stuff that's going on that happened last session. Like, we got to deal with the werewolf problem. We got the vampire problem. We got the fact that maybe our actions are known now. Like, we've made a high profile sort of move in this world. We got to wonder about Reese, that guy we left behind. We got to wonder about the 3 dwarves that are hunting us because we stole their contract. We got to hope that Lady Wallcrest is doing okay. You know, they have this whole cloud of characters and situations that they're concerned about. And they have one Modron left now that is in their service. The other one is working sort of, no, the other one was destroyed at the base of Tower Jackport by guards. And so they're taking stock of everything they have. And quite often they're also like copying down a fresh character sheet, or they're cleaning the character sheet. I've been sort of helping them how to use pen to denote things that you kind of want to lift and remove, but then add again to your sheet so you're not making a huge mess, and then pencil to check things off, like tracking spells and other things like this, little sort of housekeeping tricks. And we're doing that for quite a while. And then in comes the sort of the description of the redwoods. And so it's actually like, I don't know, maybe 8:30 before we really have taken our steps into this sort of ominous forest. And so that far into the session, I'm feeling pretty relaxed with the group. I'm feeling very transparent. And so I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, let's make this interesting. Now, as the game master, I don't do zero planning because, as I mentioned, that feels a little flimsy, but I don't do a ton either. I just try to set up the world and they walk into it. And so I know that one of 2 things are basically watching the road, using the road, like patrolling the road. One of 2 encounters patrol this road. And I didn't want to decide which one comes first because they're walking in. I mean, whatever's waiting for them, it's time for it to spring, right? I mean, that's okay. But what I don't want to decide is which one sort of happens. And so we flip for it. I just use my journal sort of in private, flip for it. And as the characters are entering, they get this sort of sudden feeling they're being watched, and then a hail of arrows come out from the very tops of the trees, and they are suddenly engaged with elven archers using camouflage cloaks. Now, my characters are now level 3, and one of them is level 4 using old school essentials. We also have slightly bent rules, so there's a couple little extra features on some of our characters. Again, if you go grab that PDF that I shared to everyone last week, you can see what I'm talking about. These arrows come in, and my players brilliantly all use vanishing techniques right away to go camo, to hide in the bushes, and to use invisibility. So the arrows come in, there's a few injuries, like, oh shit, like these arrows are deadly. They all disappear. And I absolutely roll for the arrow attacks. Absolutely roll for the arrow attacks. So now, and I didn't roll for advantage because these guys are caught flat-footed. For initiative, sorry. They're caught flat-footed. I ambush them. There is no initiative roll. The arrows just drop. So, and then they all go stealth, and they're all looking for like clues, and they see nothing. They see nothing in the trees. Then there's a brief moment. It says, turn back or meet your fate, right? Basic NPC dialogue. And someone says, who are you? What? And there's a pause, and then I just took a line from Ragnarok. I said, are you fighters or are you food? And right away they say, oh, we're fighters. And of course, this voice up in the tree says, you hear that? More food. So now I have coordinated, camouflaged, intelligent, non-suicidal archer enemies up in the tops of these trees that cannot be reached or seen easily. And the battle is joined. So quickly, a couple of the characters need to basically break out of their hidden state or invisible state to counter, to fight back. They begin fighting back, but they're having a hard time spotting. We get a very high spot roll, and they see that these elves have, of course, elven cloaks, right? Elven cloaks camouflage to the surface you're on. But these guys are masters of clinging to a tree and going like that, like those bark moths, right? You guys have seen these. It's a moth that looks exactly like the bark that it clings to. And so if the elf stops moving, they don't see them. So they have to wait for them to move. So they take this strategy to try to force them to move. So they begin firing arrows, doing their thing. The battle is joined now fully. There's some movement. Our magic user reaches a point of our elf is doing his thing, and magic user has a brilliant idea to use the momentum of a tensor's disc to go straight up as high as he can and see if he can spot some of these guys. It's got sort of mixed results. The damage is now spiking to an extreme level. They're using up all their heal stuff. And Guy Calgary, I swear you're a prophet tonight. My magic user reaches a point and he casts fireball up around the tops of the trees. Now, these trees are not so close together that you can just blast them all. So he blasts one of the top of these trees. It bursts into flames and comes crashing down like that Super Star Destroyer in Return of the Jedi. Fucking boosh. And one of the elves then has to come down. He lands. And again, my characters are using stealth. So this one who lands in the road, they hear him get an order, find them. And so he's standing in the middle of the road and he pulls his camouflage hood back and he's looking around. And now it's on like, but we get a great roll from our archer who basically pins him to the road. He makes such a brutal attack. And now they've got these sort of elves on their heels. They begin to really kick their asses, but they're smart and they escape. Not all of them, but one. One escapes. And that's all it takes with an encounter like this. If one enemy escapes, you guys all know what that means. They're off telling somebody. But the encounter is complete. My players are run ragged. They are razor thin next to dying, have used up all this sort of healing resource they had. And they're in the middle of these freaking woods knowing that one of these things got away and having no idea why they were attacked or what's going on. So now they need facts and they need a rest. So they go look in one of these bodies. They're going to loot the bodies. But they've noticed that as the hand is laying on the ground and the hand opens its dead fingers and the bow tumbles out back onto the forest soil, it reverts into a branch. And the blades that they have, when they fall out of their hands, they hit the ground and revert into little pieces of wood. Like all their tech is purely nature built. There's no looting them because when their loot comes off of their body, it returns to the forest. They're ultimate recyclers in a way, but the skeleton does remain. So they investigate this skeleton. They really take some time with these skeletons. And eventually, through making rolls and this, that, and the other thing, they find this green corruption, which is tainting the skeletons of these elves. And more importantly, in the spinal cord, our magic user with some high rolls and some very good sort of narrative tools manages to extract a single little dragon scale growing in the spinal cord of this elf's skeleton. Now, for the sake of the fun of this stream every Friday night, I'm not going to reveal to you guys what I already know, but this is how players are experiencing. And so they're just like, we're like out of our league right now. We need to hide. So they go looking around the forest and they find a small hollow and they still have this modron, right? A modron is a little dwarven cube that grows arms and legs and does mechanical tasks. So they set this modron to build them a little hiding burrow. And the modron quickly digs out a burrow. They get in it and make like a little sort of tiger trap roof on this little burrow so they can get some rest that night. I mean, this is a pretty awesome rest scheme. We all know that players try to rest too much, and that's why you hit them with timers and stuff. But this is pretty damn good. For the first time in our entire campaign, I mean, this is also the first intelligent enemy my players have ever faced. And now for the first time in our campaign, we're going to roll because this is the first time they have truly tried to rest in dangerous territory. So they're hiding in this burrow underneath these roots. And since I don't know if they're going to be interrupted, and they don't, remember, these are new players. They don't know about the keeping watch kind of routine. They just hope that luck will protect them, that nothing will sniff them out. They don't know that my other encounter that I had in the chamber that I mentioned, that's still in the chamber. And now they are literally sniffing my players out. So do they find them or do the players get a rest? You want to talk about a high stakes coin flip? Fuck. Do you rest? Like regaining some HP, regaining your spells, all this good stuff? Or is your rest interrupted like halfway, like half an hour into sleeping with something rooting into the burrow. Let's flip for it, guys. And the looks in their faces, I mean, this is an extremely high stakes coin flip. And those are my favorite. Their rest is interrupted. So they get the 1, 2, 3 on the coin flip, which means, 1, 2, 3 is always bad. 4, 5, 6 is always good. So these huge heads break through this leafy little cover they've made, these arthropod looking heads that they have never seen before, each one with 2 huge fronds coming off the upper part of the head. No one was on watch. That's what I was saying. They were just sleeping. These heads come in there, they panic, they shove them back. There's some stabbing. They jump out of there and they start running and they look back and these shapes are moving through the bushes toward them. They climb trees to get safe. They're making move, but there's just no time. They are caught unawares by a pack of rust monsters. Now, what better guard to protect a kingdom of wooden technology than wandering rust monsters who would not bother the native elves in any way, who would be completely uninterested in them? So you just have all these wandering rust monsters in the forest that are raised and released by the elves because the elves use all wood technology. I mean, come on. It's pretty good, right? So the rust monsters are focused. My players not only have a shit ton of treasure on them and metal equipment, but yes, exactly, Michael, they have a fucking Modron with them. This is like 100 pounds of steel and iron to make this little bugger work. This is a feast. And yes, it is a 10-gallon beer glass. I mean, imagine a rust monster being driven crazy by the smell of a Modron. And here they freaking come. I roll for how many of them are. I'm pretty sure it's 4. 4 rust monsters is no joke. No joke. That is a very difficult battle. My players see, by some clever trickery, they see the rust monsters eat metal before they get attacked by them. So right away, they know that they're metal eaters, which is already a really good move. Because if players aren't familiar with rust monsters, and they have this Modron, their first Modron's name was Astro, and this one's name is Elon. So they realize that they're drawn to metal. They cannot let them get a metal. I mean, these players are also carrying a cursed sword of dragon slaying, which they can't touch, so they have it wrapped up in a cape. But the sword of dragon slaying is made out of like some of the finest, like adamantium in the land. Like, this is a rust monster's dream. So these things are going berserk. The battle ensues. We have magic arrows. We have all this craziness. Like our halfling, it jumps back, and this just craziness. There's a lot. It's too much to tell, really. And you guys know, everyone out there who plays D&D knows there's just too much to tell. So they use the pit that they had. They maneuver. They have all these dwarven lances they've been collecting in their bag of holding. They put these huge pikes that dwarves use in this thing as bait. And then the way that it all played out, the Modron was digging the hole. It's basically a tiger trap. The rust monsters pour in, and just the way the dice played out, they devour the Modron and the spears. But then they're in the pit. And my magic user has been sitting on a scroll of fireball since the dawn of time. We have another fireball in the chamber. He drops the bomb in the pit, and contained explosions are brutally violent. Blows this whole thing to hell. The other rust monsters are eliminated, part and parcel, by careful combat, and my players are absolutely exhausted. Their characters are exhausted. They are safe for the moment. They're like, Jesus, this forest is a freaking nightmare. Like, how close are we even to Ringlow Hall? And I say, I don't know. I guess we have to roll for it. And now you can see the blood drain out of their face, right? So we roll a D100, which is a percentage of how far they are to Ringlow Hall, and they get a 30 something. So they're about a third of the way there, and they're like, 2/3 more of this? That will never survive. And so as they're negotiating, well, maybe we can move through the trees, or maybe we could find a way to negotiate with these sort of corrupted elves, or maybe there's got to be a better, we can find a trail. So they're working on finding a trail instead of using the road. And then it's coming up on like 11:30, 11:45 at night, and into the scene stumbles this female Kamasti elf, a high elf. And she has one of these wooden arrows stuck through her shoulder. She stumbles forward and she's just like, the corrupted ones. They all feed the great one. The city is fallen. It's too late. Our only hope is to flee. Like, who are you? My name is Elena. End of session. That's what you call bone crunching D&D right there. Now, I have a lot of Elena figured out. And really, it was hard for me to cut this session because I have the next chapter. I have a nice page of notes on what's going on here and how and when some of these facts can be revealed, right? And like where the sort of relative zones are in the forest according to the 4th edition Blackmore PDF, which to me is the more in-depth gazetteer as far as Blackmore goes. So I don't allow my players to read that particular one unless they want to read the player options section, but they can't read the gazetteer. The original Blackmore documents from way back in the day don't really give you that much world information except for the Temple of the Frog. And so you kind of need to dig around. So I kind of have a sense of what's going on here in Dave Arneson's view. And then I have a little bit of my tastiness put on there, but I don't get to do any of that stuff this session. It's almost midnight. We've been playing quite a while now, coming up on 6 hours. So we are cut. And, everybody, a couple people party over the weekend. So when we play on Monday night, sometimes we have hangovers, you know what I mean? And so sometimes we just need to go easy and like, let's kind of, so we're going to cut it off. But I got to say, I went home and I wound up with that stinking Goram D&D dream syndrome. You guys ever get this? You have an epic session and there's some unresolved, like loose ends and untied strings and things are coming. And you go home and you just dream about this garbage all stinking night. It's so freaking annoying. Like you're going through all these little loops of story hooks and little details and ideas, and you're dreaming about it, and you can't stop dreaming about it. You don't want to dream about it. I'd rather dream about like laying in some grass or like hanging out with Jeremy Clarkson or something normal like you do in a dream. But no, I'm stuck thinking about like my notes in D&D. So I got that, which on the one hand is very annoying because I'm old and I need sleep. But on the other hand, it's really, really cool because you want to talk about being engaged. Your subconscious is engaged. That's how interesting the storyline is to you. So much so that your subconscious needs to keep working on it to feel resolved throughout your sleep, which is absolutely amazing. So that was session 12. Legendary stuff, super fun, very small and focused as far as its sort of wonder and sense of world and sense of terrain and landscape. Very small and focused, but just a shit ton of action and also really escalating the combat challenge with my characters. Now that they're wet behind the ears, you know what I mean? Oh wait, wet behind the ears is a beginner. So now they're dry behind the ear. Oh, that's disturbing. Hey, what's wrong with you, man? You dry behind them ears. It's like a Gobi Desert on your mastoid process. It's a little anatomy humor for anybody who wants to. Okay, shut up. So yes, I found out a couple days later that one of my players also stayed up till almost 6 a.m. recapping, examining his notes, thinking about all the stuff, and couldn't sleep and everything. So we're all definitely like, for lack of a more couth term, balls deep in this campaign. Like it is highly engrossing. And so that was session 12. I'm super excited for session 13, Monday night. We're going to get into Ringlow Hall. We have our character Zippler will be returning triumphantly after a all too long absence. And on we go. These guys really refuse to miss a week if it's at all possible to avoid it. And so we've been going weekly for quite a while now. And man, can you get momentum in a campaign when you play really religiously on the weekly? Like the momentum is amazing. Okay. Deep Quantus. No. I like hanging out with my friends. Famous people are cool, but I like my friends. I like waiters and bartenders and hardworking folks. That's who I hang out with. All right. Whew. That's it. So if you guys will take a look over here, you will hear some wonderful music by the legendary Roots crew. Hey, 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 hey. Thanks, guys. That was fantastic. It's great that you've given up on the Tonight Show to appear here on Runehammer. It's amazing. You've gone from an audience of 14 million to an audience of 140. So, hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a sip if you got one, and be sure to go back to last week's stream. Take a look at the description. There's a Dropbox link to my OSE hack PDF. And this isn't anything that's going to shake the pillars of the world, but it is the exact rule modifications that we have not only created but are employing in our old school essentials game. And so if you're playing anything like the BX D&D, this could be useful and cool for you, especially some of the player stuff. I've gotten a lot of positive response on that, even though it's really sort of application of common language to bend the rules. But that's kind of my jam. Before we jumping into, oh yeah, finally got your Yingling, bro. That's awesome. And before we jump into the Q&A, let me just say, you guys super excited about July. We have got 3 big things coming from Runehammer. If you're a fan, we've got Index Card Master Edition, we've got Viking Death Squad, and we have, hopefully in July, we will see, but am I allowed to mention it? I think we're going to have Runehammer brand dice are coming. Finally, after almost 6 years, an opportunity has presented itself. It looks like it's going to work out. You heard it right here first, and they're going to be the best of the best of the best. So super duper excited about that. That is such a long time coming, because I did not want to do a cheesy or corporate solution. I did not want to use any of the sort of bigger vendors, like Q Workshop or any of the custom dice vendors, even though they do a great job. I really wanted it to be craft focused. I wanted to be a one-on-one relationship with a craftsman, and I wanted to do it together rather than, the kind of the business kind of style. I like to do things very, very craft focused, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot of work, and they're going to sell out really quickly, and we're going to have to make more, but we're going to get it fucking done. And I'm so excited about it. Also, Viking Death Squad, I think, is within a dozen pages of being done. So that means a brief proofing process and get that done. So unbelievable. Viking Death Squad will be available in a lot of different ways, and so will Master Edition. This is going to be my biggest and most diverse publishing year ever. So I'm going to be in my usual places like Drive-Thru and Amazon, and I'm going to be in some surprising places like the Runehammer store, which is going to be popping pretty soon. It's going to be crazy. I don't know why this stuff always has to happen in summer. I think that humans are like a lot of other organisms in nature, which is like summer is a time of burgeoning, fluorescence, a blooming. Sweet Lord in heaven, Odin's left eye, I've gone mad. Okay, anyway, so it's going to be really exciting. So tune in however you can, hang out with me online, catch up with me on Instagram. And I don't do a super ton of posts on Instagram, but it is where I'm kind of expressing my weekly existence. So you'll see kind of our funny table. we're using a glass table and we just rip up index cards for terrain. That's how we do it. And it's really working for us. I mean, it's clicking for us. So why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it's not like I have these amazing photos to show, but I think my message this year, especially with getting back to a physical table and a really exciting group, is that it's not about having exciting photos. It's not about transmitting or showing or proving that the game is like visually eye-popping. There are things that happen at the table in D&D, and everyone who is a real player knows this, which are undocumentable, that no one will ever know about but you and your players. No one will ever appreciate what happens in those sessions, and that's fucking okay. That's okay. We don't have to transmit and sell all our experiences online. We can have private joy and be cool. It's okay. The world is not all about this sort of transmission obsession. You can have awesome private games and have a blast with it, and no one will ever fully understand why it was so damn cool and why you won't shut up about it. Okay, so that's where I'm at with session 12. Thanks you guys for tuning in. That's the update for the stuff that I've been working on. I've also been working on some other crazy things, but they're somewhat unrelated. Because as you know, as Absolute Tabletop always said, my man Tim over there, you got to keep a lot of buckets going. You know, if you're working on a lot of different things, you don't tend to burn out because you can always switch gears and work on something else. Let's kick off the Q&A with Guy Calgary over here. I got to reward him because of his prophetic comments earlier. Clearly, like right in the moment with the stream. You can't see the pants. The pants are inside the tunic. But yeah, that is the start of my gear for Ren Fair this year on my birthday. This year, Ren Fair and Oktoberfest both at the same time are on my birthday on a Saturday. It's going to be insane. I might die. Anyway, so I have the gear now. I need to drag it around in the mud and jump on it and beat it with a stick and stuff because I like to age all my gear. Whoa, Mabel. Hey, you got to stop this, Mabel. I think you've done your share. Thank you so much. Thoughts on races as class? Yeah. I think it's absolutely perfect. And if you take a look at my hack doc, I have a caveat that you can use to bend that rule a little bit, but I think it's great. I think it diversifies players. So on the one hand, one might say, well, this is kind of weird, you know, this kind of almost feels like exclusivity of some sort or some. No, what it does, it's a game decision, not a human level decision. It says, let's diversify the roles in the group with nice, clean delineations. And that's what it's about. It's not about who gets to be what or that something, you know, this is somehow evaluative about who we are as people, you know, or like the value of human diversity in the real world, because I know that that issue has come into this topic, but that's not what this is about. This is about having fewer selections on a menu screen for a game, if you can think of it that way. So I think it's fantastic, and I think it is really a lost treasure in the game. Okay, Josh. Okay, these are going to start coming. So let's ramp up here. Somebody tell that Mad Max guy to start playing his guitar. Love the idea to generate terrain with yeah. How exactly you go about doing it? Only with questions. Again, Joshua, go grab that PDF. It's all about asking plain language questions and then using a dice as a binary answer and then interpreting that and just running with it. And once you do a few of these, you really get a feel for it. It's not about a system. It's using natural language that we all use in everyday life to flip coins and make decisions that are somewhat random. Do you take notes in your journal, Kuchigari? No, I don't take notes during a session ever. Only to track hit points and other stuff like that. And if something really important happens. But generally, I do not look at my stuff if I can avoid it. I really work by memory. And then right when I get home, I do a ton of writing. But I don't like to do it in the moment because it pulls me out of the moment. How many players are in the group and what are their characters and character names? Right now, we're three manning. So we have three players. We have a halfling, we have an elf, and we have a human magic user who was raised by dwarves. So he does have some dwarven properties. And this is kind of some of the stuff that I talk about in the PDF I shared last week. What's up with Azael? Azael has no business on this channel. If you're curious about what that means, you're going to have to go find out for yourself. Moving on. Let's see. Popanda, I want to get into your novels and stories. Where should I start? Go on Amazon and get The Legacy of Mud. Again, go on Instagram, and that's where I put my Legacy of Mud thing, so you can jump on Amazon and grab that. The PDF is in the description of last week's video, Joshua. Go grab it. It's called OSE Hacked. Optimator. Oh, yeah. You know what's up. Hey, thanks, Leopold. Where'd you get the knowledge about bugs in the rainforest? Well, I lived in the Northwest for 18 years. So I got the knowledge by being there. Poncho Dog, new to D&D, and I like charts and ideas from older editions. Sure. Any important tips for converting mechanisms? Absolutely not. Don't convert things looking at books. Read old books, be interested, follow all your interests and collect and fill your shelves, but then close them, take a couple of breaths and open your journal. Work from memory. Working book to book and stuff like this, it's like doing taxes. I highly recommend working from memory. What happens when you work from memory? 90% of it slips away, and that's good because that's the 90% you don't need. I hope that helps, Poncho, but you're doing what a lot of us do. Matthew McFadden, best album by The Roots. Well, it's no, it's not. I think it's like the anthology. I hate to be a cheese ball, but I think it's like the anthologies. It's the greatest hits kind of stuff. I mean, with hip hop groups, a lot of times, like Jurassic 5 is another great case. I love their anthology record better than any of their albums because you just get those tasty ones that you just freaking love. And, not a lot of hip hop artists can really nail a full album like Dre can with like Chronic, you know what I mean? Like where every single song is like a #1 hit. Nasir 2, what's up? What if someone has 20 in a stat? I don't know how they got that. That's impossible. You can only roll 3d6, and the absolute luckiest human would roll an 18. There's no way to have 20 in a stat that I can think of. Also, if you're being honest about rolling 3d6 down the line, it's almost unheard of to see something like an 18 come up. I'm sure there's some weird math around that. But if somehow someone winds up with a 20 in a stat, for one thing, I just don't know how that would happen. But I say rock on. However you got to that point, that's where you're rolling now. That's where you're at. Is succeeding a lot? Because it's still not every time. Is succeeding a lot a problem? No, it really isn't. Is doing lots of damage a problem? That's not a problem. There's so much more going on in the game. I think people worry a lot about like, well, my players are going to get successful rolls when rolling one specific stat in one specific circumstance. I'd say fucking rock on, but I'm not sure how you get a 20. My group has an NPC who it needs to protect. Well, that's unfortunate because that NPC is doomed. I kind of forget to micromanage her. You have any advice? Yeah, don't ever do that. don't ever do that. For one thing, players always control NPCs, not you. That's the first step. For the second step, they're doomed. Sorry, bad news. Hey, Lee, what's up? When would you play OSE versus ICRPG? Just as interest demands. I know a lot of people think that somehow I'm bailing on my own system or something because I'm playing. No, we all know that the hobby is far larger than any one system. It's what you're playing with a particular group at a particular time has nothing to do with like what's best or what you're fully interested in. I think ICRPG works better for long-term campaigns. I think OSE works better for beginner players. Dan, hey, thanks, Mabel. You don't have to pay every time you want to ask a question, Mabel, you nutcase. New Metal, absolutely. My favorite band in that category would have to be Mono. from Japan. You got to check out Mono, End of the World New Metal. Dan Moonfield. Has your OSR group implemented any other rule books? Nope. Nope. We just use Rules Tome, and we only have one copy that we hand around. Our other copy I gave to a player, and he like left it in a bookcase somewhere, and it disappeared, which is totally okay. I'm sure he'll find it when he comes back to town. But yeah, we keep it real simple. I don't think rules are what this hobby is about. This is what you get telling me this time. Okay. How do you manage NPC versus NPC combat? I don't do that. No. NPCs function on a far simpler realm of dice than that. They would maybe just have a save or something. It just isn't like that. That talk about a distraction that pulls away from players. That's a corner I would not want to be in. But if you're in that corner, just negotiate it for the moment and make it fun and make it quick. Hey, happy Freya's Day, Hunter, my man. Another Norse pagan. And if you guys won't mind, I'd like to conjure up Mjolnir here to crack another Sapporo. This is pretty much the coolest bottle opener you can get. All right, what do we got here? Snacks. Nah, I don't require human food tonight. Kuchigari, thanks for all the answers. My last question tonight. Does the players roll the coin flips? It depends on which would be more agonizing. So if there's more agony because a player rolls it, I'll have them do it. But generally, then I'll do it. Also, like whoever asks the question, low he shall roll. So, hey, man, are there any, small glass bottles in this potion shop? Flip a coin for me. I don't know the answer to that kind of stuff. Yeah. From your OSC, well, me giving my players more double HP on first level. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's crazy. They will always be 6 or so ahead of where they should be. Don't do that. That's silly. That's just plain silly. That's Cthulhu talking. Clouding men's dreams with silly ideas. Don't do that. Just give them max on their hit die. And that's plenty. That fear that they feel at first level is a thing you're going to miss all too soon. So don't you dare skip the honeymoon. Don't you skip that honeymoon. That's like wanting to get married before you go dating. Don't do that. Don't be in a cult. Don't do that. Hobbit to Shire. In the last recaps, you mentioned taking cliffhammer pause with the group to discuss what they want to do. Werewolf reveal. How to do it and not break the pace. Break the pace. Break the pace. Don't worry about it. Just talk your way through it and have fun with your friends. And I know that this may seem like a big change for me as far as some of my older videos, which are very, very intense and stuff. But that was a different group of people. That was a different game. So I'm not going back on my theories, which to me is just garbage that some people are saying like, well, maybe you should think more before you talk shit or something. I'm like, fuck off. We're human beings. We change over time. Conditions change. Some things are fun that just change because of the people you're with. It doesn't mean that the old way is bad and the new way is good or vice versa. It's just change. So I say break the pace. Hey, you guys, how are we going to break this down? I need to talk about this for just a second. I don't know what DKK 50 is, but it sounds awfully good. Hey, yo, you got any of that DKK? Nah, man, I'm out of habaneros. Couldn't make none. I don't know. But thank you. Jesse Warren. Sometimes contradicting. Yeah, you know what you do? Well, first of all, fess up at the moment, like right then, just like I deleted that floor in a tower last week. Fess up. As for tips for keeping your facts straight, you know what I do? I'll do a page of notes, which is usually a session is on one page, and then I'll do it again. Just do it again, like 3 days later. Exact same page of the exact same notes, but without looking at the other one. It's just like rehearsing. It's a mnemonic method to put it in your brain. Give that a try and tell me what you think. Thanks, Flit. Beer money. My players will be starting the adventure in a city council meeting. What would you put on the council's agenda? We are immediately adjourned. Do not make your players sit through a city council meeting. Have you ever watched a city council meeting? It's fucking hell. Start your description by saying, you exit the city council meeting. Unless there's only one character in the city council meeting, and then I would say, yes. But a DM trying to deliver something like the Secret Council of Mordor, like hanging out in Rivendell, and they're saying all that cool shit, but it's just you, and they're just listening to that. No. Plus, city councils are whoop in general as far as reality factor. I mean, go on C-SPAN. If you want your game to be like C-SPAN, then proceed. So I'm sure you can find an exciting way to just get the results of the city council meeting and not actually sit through it. What's your go-to food when playing? Oh, garlic knots, red pie, and cheesesteak egg rolls. Do you have a hard time coming up with random NPC names? No, absolutely not. I've been doing this too long. I'm not sure what else to say. Tavern names, I am the supreme overlord of tavern names. And I welcome all comers as far as challengers on that front. I hate to be like that, but that is the honest truth. I've been doing this for so long. My NPC names flow, and they also have text like subtext and callbacks and hidden references and language modalities. My tavern names are the stuff of legend. I stand by those words. If anybody tries to take me down, maybe we'll see me at a con someday. What up, Kyle? How you doing? Whew. I think I caught up for just a second. Dude, my fruit vendors are the shit. Man, my fruit vendors are dope. As far as that name thing goes, like we do have the Lord of the Second Terrace is one of the new dwarves that I didn't know his name. He's a drunkard who lives on a tiny ledge. And when I was asked his name, I didn't have it written down or anything. He's a relatively new character even to me. It's Keldar. Of course he's Keldar. Are you kidding? That kind of stuff. Keldar is actually a name that kind of calls back to the Sundabar and like links into the other names of the dwarves and stuff like that, and like implies that he's a family member with the other guy. Anyway. Oh, hey, I'm free. No questions. Yo, Keith, what up? Yeah, recall techniques, mnemonic devices. Absolutely. And what you do is you don't do it like I'm trying to memorize this. It's just free yourself of that. You're just enjoying the process of scribbling little bullets and making D&D notes. Because let's face it, making notes about D&D in a journal is fucking cool as hell. It's like one of the funnest parts, especially if you're in public doing it and people are like, fuck you doing? I'll be like, I'm prepping a session for D&D. Why don't you step off my dick? Sorry, that got a little intense. Yeah, this guy is so Keldar. He's more Kel than he is Dar. Yo, Chris, what's up? Isn't it so damn awesome more of us are gaming in person? Oh my God, yes. And I've decided not to talk about any sort of stuff that seems to be opinion charged on the streams here. But yes, it's so great for everyone to be getting back together. Get together with your friends. This would be a great opportunity for a one-roll combat approach. Yeah, absolutely. That is not a question. That's a statement, Jared. You cheated. You received 3 demerits and a cupcake. Nicholas Montalpa. Oh, wait, Nicolas. Is it true that ICRPG is coming in Spanish? Yes. I think if it's not done, it's within weeks of being done. Yes, that is coming. It's also coming in Portuguese, Korean, German, Swedish. A lot of people from all over the globe have approached me about translating ICRPG. It's remarkable. Do products that get put on drive-through get decent publicity from the website? No, not really. Everything I do is built on word of mouth. I don't believe in the word marketing. I think marketing is forcing your product on people. I believe in quality wins people over one by one, and they do the marketing to people they know. And I live by those words, and they are tough words to live by, I gotta say. But to me, it's like that's being legit. And a lot of bands do it that way. Like bands don't necessarily do marketing; they use word of mouth, and I like that approach. I think it's a really legit approach. it definitely limits like mega revenue and stuff. But I'm not in this for revenue. I'm in this for craft and contribution and being meaningful and being honest with my art and like saying what I mean to everybody. Best wizard spell in OSE? What do you mean by best? A lot of people think of wizard spells in terms of damage, but what do you mean by best? How many players did the table is too many? I never allow more than 6 players on a funny night. 6 players would be like a party night, but 5 players is my limit. 6 if there's no way to avoid it. So 5, no more than 5. Catalan, I have not been approached about that. That's a really, really small space that uses that language, but I fucking love that language. I love the Bon Dia stuff. But yeah, I just need to be hollered at on an individual basis for that because translations are not easy to do. And they involve a lot of file exchange that's very scary and not much money at all. Like the Korean one expects 200 sales for the copy. So it's like all this legwork to get 200 copies sold like that. But it's not about the copies, it's more about getting to the people so that someday you can meet those people and high five a motherfucker and mean it and be like, let's drink some soju and get down. Okay, I'm caught up. There's nothing left to do. Stream's over, I guess. You know, that is a delicious beer. It's a lager. It's a lager. File number 47344747337.7. It's a lager. RuneCon is still lost in the effort of trying to find a venue. To be completely honest, you guys, I am over my head trying to do this. It is very difficult. There's a lot of phone calling involved, and it's very hard. It's all very low tech, and I need help to make RuneCon happen. I need help, and I will pay somebody to help me. I'm so out of my. I'm a creative person. I don't know how to do logistics. Fuck. I can only do so many different things. Like I'm already completely overwhelmed by how everything's like working out. We're not always equipped for success in this life. Or as Akira would say, sometimes success can test a man's mettle as much as the fiercest enemy. Limp Bizkit or Corn? Corn all the fucking way. Limp Bizkit, except for West Borland, sucks. West Borland is a genius. The rest of Limp Bizkit is garbage. Corn is like rock solid. If you ever seen Corn live, you know that when they get a little bit tired, they jam like motherfuckers. They are good. Sorry about all the F-bombs, but this show is not for kids. Ever let players craft items? Absolutely, all the time. Who rolls for treasure? Players, always. Give you homework? No, that ain't me. That ain't me. Remember your 6K sub videos? Yes, absolutely. I remember it, which is weird. Listen to it today, the whole dentist split hangs tooth situation. Well, no, that thing's gone. It did not end well. It ended with me having -1 to chewing. But you know, hey, like you get old in this life, your teeth can get fucked up and stuff. It's like something to just, something to just keep a good attitude about. Oh man, now here's a question for the ages. Fizbin or Gandalf? Whew. I mean, they're kind of the same character. Fizbin has a lot. I'd have to go Fizbin. He's got a lot lighter attitude than Gandalf. He reminds me more of me. Gandalf does not remind me of me. Gandalf is like my dad or something. But Fizbin's dope, man. I like Fizbin a lot. Dope question, Alistair. Thank you. Cheers to you. You mentioned before that players can create their own spells. Abso-freaking-lutely. We have one called Heroism. Heroism is a spell that our elf substituted for gaining a spell at that level. It is to raise all of a character's stats or saves by 1d4 for 1d4 rounds. It's a generic super buff. It's very altruistic and it's awesome. How do you handle a drunk player? Just call the session. I assume you mean drunk, not in a good way, not in a fun way. If somebody's really drunk, the session's over, which is totally okay. You can still hang out and still talk about everything, but you really don't want to like muck up your game. Yeah. How the heck do you RP two NPCs conversing with each other? Never. Don't do that. Why would you do that? Control the scenes in your movie. Do not have NPCs talking to themselves while you're doing the no, that's bizarre. Don't do it. That's the solution, Hunter. Even though you plan session by session. Yeah, yes, I do. Religiously. I never go beyond a session in my planning. That to me is completely unfair to the players. Dark fantasy, do you have a guess or idea where it may go later? No, I have no guess. There actually an option came up now that they have lycanthropy to head south into the swamp and to let the werewolves go apeshit on the frogmen as a way to farm XP and take out their revenge. They hate frogmen. What does that have to do with anything? Nothing. Wait, it has everything to do with everything because it's what players want to do in the world and they're free. So I don't think about what this stuff is. I just try to make an interesting world. Best fantasy mag is well, it's either heavy metal or omni. Do you use anything like DCC craziness? Nope. Mercurial magic, though fascinating, has not really found its way into my weekly game. Now it is something that I love in a book because I know people do like to use it. So I think it's important to include in a system. Yeah, one fruit vendor at a time. Never say like in 3 months time I'm going to have this brilliant fruit vendor ready at this dungeon they're going to wind up at. I don't even know how a game master could even think that's going to happen. And yeah, Dan, talk to me. Añejo. Wow, your last name means like aged. That's really cool. Me and Dan are on the same page this week, not by accident. We've been talking about trusting the dice, and this isn't a story, it's a game and stuff like that. Me and Dan are two peas in a pod, now, man. How long did it take you to write your first novel? 30 years. The actual writing of it took about 4 months. But the context that I delivered in Mud and Horn was built up over decades. I'm a huge believer in no shortcuts. A huge believer in longevity and doing the craft because you love it, and dividends will come after a long time. I know that that's a very hard piece of advice to hear for someone who's not a long way into it, but I just can't sugarcoat it. You know, if you want to be a carpenter, fuck with wood for 20 years and you might start to have a couple of interesting ideas. You know what I mean? If you want to write novels, write 50 of them and you might have some interesting ways to twist it. And it doesn't mean don't start. It just means to reach a level that feels really fulfilling, it takes a lot of time, and just the time is the fun part. The journey really is good. And so go and reach out to other people who are journeying, not because you're there and you want to flex and you want to show them how cool you are, but because you're journeying. Oh my God. Well, I'd have to go Blanco with Añejo, depending on the brand right behind. Espolón, so nice. But Reposado's like in between. I don't like that. But Espolón has been my new favorite. So that's where I'm at. How do you handle a drunk DM? End the session. Same answer. End the session. Players can end sessions. We're all sitting at the table together and we're all equals because we're all human beings. So if someone's drunk in a bad way, session's over. It's that simple. And it's not negative. It's a good thing. You're getting helped. Like I know that this is a bit of an issue, but it's all about this fundamental like trust and being positive. Yeah, Nicolas. I mean, yeah, that's my underpinning of where I'm at these days. Confusion prepping OSE versus 5e. What is a necessary bullet? I have no idea what that means. I mean, it would just be like for the session I just described, rust monsters are patrolling the forest. That's a bullet. That is a really good bullet. Corrupted elven archers have come from the south to guard the road. That's a good bullet. What the hell does that mean for the session? I don't know. It's up to players. Do you have any good sources of inspiration for weird science fantasy? For weird science fantasy? What the fuck does weird really mean? Weird science fantasy. No, I'd say Dune is probably the closest to weird that I go as far as stuff that I would read. I don't like weird with a capital W where it's like trying to be weird. That's not my jam. Robert Mall. That's a rock steady name. What do you think of the new Loki show? It's one of the best shows ever frickin' made. It's absolutely brilliant. It's so brilliant, it's comparable to Legion, which I think up to now was the best Marvel show ever made, if not one of the best Marvel productions ever made. And Loki competes with it. Loki is absolutely brilliant thinking man's version of the Marvel universe, which for someone who is a Thor fan, especially from back in the day, who also happens to be like Norse pagan, this stuff is so damn fun and smart about it. Absolutely amazing. And then to put such a brilliant visual design on it, chef's kiss, baby. So good. And if you're not familiar with Legion and you think Loki is cool, you are in for a real treat. Would this method work with a mega dungeon? No. Yes. Mega dungeons are a construct of game master fantasy, I think. I don't think players fantasize about mega dungeons. I think game masters do, and I'm still a little unclear why. But yeah, the method works with whatever the players want to do. If they want to go underground and be there for the next 5 years, great. I'm a leaf on the wind. Yeah, okay. If something like Den is weird sci-fi, then I would start with either the heavy metal, the first year issues with Den, or just cut to the movie where they use the Lochnar to tie the stories together, which was a much later sort of piece of the heavy metal magazine. But I loved the way that they did it in the cartoon because they anthologized the magazine using the Lochnar. If that counts as weird sci-fi, then hell yeah, heavy metal is the place to start. But Terrakians, well, I guess Terrakians are a little bit like weird sci-fi because they kind of have this odd feeling. You know, it brings the Lochnar into focus and stuff in a kind of an odd world. Pepsi Gang or Coke Squad? I don't know anything about what that means. I do not drink soda. And do people still drink soda? So two of these mugs is one of these. Delicious. And there's no questions. Well, I guess that wraps things up then. Nothing to do. Nice. That's good news, Nate. So it's well, look at that. We're well past an hour at this point. I mean, what am I doing tonight anyways? This is kind of a weird sun coming out after a thunderstorm thing going on. I'm liking that. Really neck deep working on Viking Death Squad tonight, so I'm probably just going to jump right back into that. The end of the book is like a bunch of encounters that are laid out just for sort of idea fuel, and I get to write those tonight. I could probably crush a Sapporo can, but I don't have any handy. And I'm not going to crush a Sapporo bottle in my hand. I don't. I'm not a. I'm not a stunt monkey, Mabel. I don't just do things I'm told to do. Baltimore versus Philly. Well, are we talking like Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla? Are we talking like a military engagement here? What do you? I need more context on that one, Kyle. Invincible, absolutely did not like it. Could barely watch it. Really don't know why that show is popular. This whole thing of twisting superhero stories in a predictably negative way is boring to me at best, uncomfortable at worst. And there's a lot of other examples. They're not even really worth talking about it for me. Anyway, City of Lost Children, that was a great one. Oh my God. Terry Gilliam, one of my kinfolk. Well, I guess we're starting to wrap it up then, you 140 crazy three-eyed knuckleheads. Yeah, The Boys is the worst one of all of them. Absolutely fucking dismal, nihilistic piece of garbage. But that's just my opinion. So sorry to all the artists who I'm sure worked hard to create that show. But absolutely horrific, terrible writing, completely nihilistic wallowing. Hey, here's one. Hobbit. Are the quick start rules to be translated? No. The quick start the quick start is a bit of a translation or transition between versions of ICRPG and stuff. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Those get translated in some of the deals, but not in all of them. And translation is tough. It's really, you also don't necessarily want to translate because you want regions of the world to be creating their own RPGs in their own languages. Because there's a lot of nuanced technical language in RPGs, and so it's a very interesting sort of turbulent area. It's like rapids in the river a little bit with publishing. JD, how have you kept enjoying art over the years? Because, well, I don't. There's an old adage that I love, which is, what is the difference between craft and art? And the answer is that people doing craft are enjoying it. I wouldn't say that I enjoy it terribly. It's something that I am absolutely compelled to do. I cannot stop doing it. I have to do it. I have to work on it. It's never good enough. I must constantly push it, refine it, review it, look at it, think about it, change it. It's endless. And that, for me, is what my art journey has been. And the fact that I don't do that with writing, with like writing novels, it proves to me that I'm a bit of a craft person. I'm a hobby level novelist, but I am an absolute hardcore professional craftsman when it comes to illustration and stuff, because I have been doing it for coming up on 40 straight years with no breaks, and sometimes not making a living off of it, just constantly fucking doing it endlessly. And all my other interests come and go, and that always remains. I don't know why. I have no explanation. It is endless for me. It is a constant journey. You too, Matt Bro. Have a good weekend, man. If you had to live in a fantasy book, which would you choose? That's a pretty good one. Maybe the Amber world, I think, might be really cool to live in. In your opinion, are halflings Tolkien fanboy junk or a quintessential race of fantasy? I'm not sure what Tolkien fanboy junk is. I feel a little targeted on that one. I do feel that like small people, which is what things are essential in a cool world that looks at the human condition in a diverse way. I think small people are an interesting and fascinating part of that. It's also something that we should be thinking about in life, is Small people, big people, stout people, skinny people, different colored people, different cultures of people. I think that's fun. So yeah, it is quintessential. Different languages. We don't get into it a lot, but we do have a helm of languages. We more get into it in the written sense more than any other sense. Oh man. Well, the Greek islands are something that are a little more part of my private life. So yes, thank you. I am going back, but that's sort of my private side of life, and that's not something I talk about on YouTube. But yes, short answer. Oh my God, I fucking love the Greek islands so damn much. Where in the world would you most like to visit for inspiration and adventure? The Greek islands. Absolutely. There's so much exploring to do there, and I need to do that exploring. Did you ever consider going to art school? Well, no, I did. I did. And I could not stand it because of the lack of dedication and focus that everyone had, including the instructors. I found it insufferable, to be totally honest. It was not a pleasant experience for me because my dedication, I don't know if my results speak to my dedication. That's a little more a matter of like my intrinsic ability. And I'm not in a position to judge that. But at the time that I went to get artistic instruction, I found it highly lacking. Highly lacking. Um, can we all have a shield wall? No. No, a shield wall takes teamwork. I don't even need another word to describe it. It takes teamwork. It's not easy to find teamwork, and no one's responsible for it. Everyone in the team is responsible for the teamwork. So it really is a blessing, and it's a bit of luck to find that teamwork. RuneCon will not be in LA. I live on the East Coast, so I'm not going to fly across the continent for my own con. Good night, Mabel. It's been so great to have you once again, as always. And let's have a few more, and we'll wrap it up at 8 o'clock. Chris, can we all write a shield wall or skull for? Well, a cheers is nice, and you got to sip one if you got one. I don't think there's anything wrong with art school or design or anything. It was just my specific experience. I think art school is absolutely amazing in many cases and is perfect for accomplished artists who are traditionally trained. It's not art school as a thing that it's my personal experience. Let's be very clear about that. For accomplished artists, art school is a huge step for their legitimate skill set. I I am in awe of most artists. I am just me. So I don't really compare myself to others as far as like where I am in my path. And just for my path, that was not the right fit. If you're starting drawing, yeah, I do have advice. You got to go back to my drawing with Hank videos if you're interested in my technique. It's about the exercises that I use to improve my hand control all the time and also let go of my hand control. But I would actually guess that no one really is starting to draw. Everybody draws from the time they're 2, 3 years old. So let yourself draw. Just let drawing happen. And if you want to draw a certain way, well, now that's a different question. Um, Drawing is something we all do. It is intrinsic in being human. But if you want to do it a certain way with a certain level of skill, okay, now we're kind of getting more specific. And if I can help you one on one, please feel free to message me on Discord or whatever, and like let's work on your particular journey. But art is just such a personal thing. I really believe that it's a journey. It's a story, and for me it's been a very big long story, and I'm proud and happy with where I'm at, and I have a million light years to go, and that's okay. That's just the fun of just going on the journey, not comparing yourself to others, and enjoying being part of the process of the craft. And I think that's not undervalued but under transmitted nowadays, is that results are overemphasized, and that's been true for centuries. It's not always about results. Sometimes you just want to carve tikis out of balsa wood and you're terrible at it and you just enjoy doing it and maybe you'll get a little bit better over the years and that's okay. Yeah, you mean John Harper. And yeah, Agon is really, really neat. Really cool idea for a sort of a blob-based universe. Do you believe that tabletop RPGs are therapeutic play or in retrospect? I think for some people delivered in the right therapeutic atmosphere with trained people who can work with people who have therapeutic needs, I think almost anything can serve that function. So I'm not really qualified to speak on that topic, but it seems to be true. Hey Chris, sorry about that, man. Hang tough. Yeah, and over the course of my life here on YouTube, I've gone through some super gnarly shit too, and I'm sure I'll go through some more. So hang in there, live to see another day. Trust the process, trust daily life, and look for little bits of happiness. And you know what? It might get darker before it gets brighter, but just keep going. That's what we do here on planet Earth. We just keep going. It's not always easy, that's for damn sure. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. Guys, girls, both, neither. Thank you guys for tuning in so much. It's always awesome to hang out on Friday night. I really enjoy like recapping my sessions because it's like it is the bread and butter, the meat and potatoes of the hobby. Not like my opinion about how to play, not what system I think is cool, not what, like little tricks and hacks and spells are neat or what breaks the game or what any of this kind of stuff, but just what happened in our hobby. I really love recounting that. And that's just the nibbling on the popcorn of like watching the sort of movie of our hobby unfolded. So it's so fun to tell you guys about our sessions. Much love to my players. You guys know who you are. And all you guys who tuned in tonight, it's great to have you guys. Have a great freaking weekend. Go make the world a little bit better. If you can help somebody out, if you can put a smile on somebody's face, if I can do that shit, and take care of yourself in the meantime. Okay. Strength, honor, and beer. Odin, Thor, and Loki. We're going to see each other again next week. Until then, my name's Ingrid Bernal, Hank Infernal here. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Peace.